Okay, an hour now of open lines. We started the program earlier with our guest, Dr. Paul LaViolette, is a favorite of him. So we're going to do some open lines this hour. You know, it was in 1962, the Twilight Zone show called Nothing in the Dark. How many of you remember this? This one starred a very young Robert Redford. This had to do with a woman. Her name was Wanda. She was hiding, sequestering herself in her shabby basement apartment, refusing to let anyone past her door because she was terrified at the prospect of death. Fearful that one of her visitors might be Death himself, she wouldn't let anybody in. Then, one late evening, she lets her guard down long enough to offer some shelter to a wounded police officer. His name was Harold Belden, played by the very young Robert Redford. Nothing in the Dark aired January 5th, 1962. A quick question for you during open lines. Have you ever stared at death in the eyes? Back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And, of course, don't forget the schedule as we get into this weekend. Friday night, Art Bell with his traditional predictions show. He'll also do Saturday night's program, kind of like a two-parter on predictions. And then I'll be on live Sunday, January 1st. As you know, I do the first Sunday of every month. But this will sort of be another version of a prediction show with a number of guests, too many to mention right now, who will be coming on for various segments, giving us some of their thoughts for the year ahead and the next couple of years ahead. So get ready for a full weekend of predictions as we ring in the new year with you. 2006. Hard to believe how quickly it's going by. Let's go to the phones. We'll pick it up first of all by going to our first-time caller line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there. Welcome to the show.
Hi there, George. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Where might you be?
I am Kovac, and I am calling you from Portland, Maine.
Well, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I was calling about a past episode that you guys had with one of your guest speakers about angels, and I know that you're talking about death today. And what happened was, and I'd like to get your intake on this.
Okay.
When I was about 8 years old, my cousin David drowned in a YMCA pool. He had an epilepsy attack.
God.
Yes. And unfortunately, there was over 10 to 11 lifeguards on duty, co-ed at the time, and none of the lifeguards heard this. Now, the odd thing, before David died, probably a week into it, he started saying goodbye to everybody, calling them up, relatives that he had never even spoke to, calling my relatives in Ireland, my relatives in Scotland, and during that whole week, saying goodbye. Friday came up, and we worked at a flower shop, and this man came in. Very androgynous man. I wasn't really masculine or feminine, but he was sat there and he talked to my cousin David for about 4 or 5 hours in this flower shop. And he got 12 dozen red roses, no kidding, had me and my grandmother dethorn them. That day, my cousin David died at the YMCA pool. 2 days later, my grandmother came back from the funeral because I was too young to go.
Sure.
She was stark white as a ghost and asked me if I remembered this very androgynous person, and I told her that I remembered, and she told me that she found 12 dozen long-stem roses dethorned on David's grave that came from our shop.
How strange is this?
Very strange. Now, that was my first time. The second time, I actually got this individual's name. I had been into a car accident when I was 14 years old, and I was thrown from the car. My seatbelt had given up, and I went through the window. And I was laying there with the paramedics, and they were working on me. I could hear them telling my parents that I wasn't going to make it, that I was fading out. And I felt this hand on my hand, and I looked over, and this man named Ezekiel, who whispered his name to me, he said, "My name is Ezekiel. Don't be afraid. I'm here to keep you through this." He stayed with me the entire time, and I guess the entire time I was telling my parents over and over again, "Where's Ezekiel? Where's Ezekiel? Where did this man go?" And they never knew what I was talking about.
What did he look like?
It's hard to remember what he looked like. What I remember is my family talks about a very specific power that angels have called arcana. They make you forget their faces, but I always remembered the man always well-dressed in a black suit with a white shirt and a black button collar on the top. You know how some of the tuxes or businessmen will wear the button on top instead of ties. Dressed like that. I can't remember the face to save my life. I remember that he had the person had long brown hair, but I cannot remember the color of his eyes. I can't remember the features of his face or anything. The third and final time that I saw this man, my grandfather was dying of cancer, and me and my grandmother were down in the chapel praying.
And let me ask you, when you say you saw this man now in these two episodes, was it the same face or was it a different face on the first two times?
Face.
Same face, okay.
Like the first time, I wouldn't remember if I saw him on the street today. But when I saw him the second time, I recognized him immediately. Well, me and my grandmother and the third time were sitting in the chapel, this man sat behind us. And he reached across the pew and he touched my grandmother on the shoulder and he said, "Mary, it's time to go. Your husband's dying." And my grandmother turned and looked at him and she dropped white as a ghost. And I turned and looked at him and I recognized him. It was the same man. My Nana got up and ran to my grandfather as fast as she could. And as I got up to leave, he said, "No, Kevin, sit and stay. It's not your time to go say goodbye."
And by the time she got there, had he passed on?
One last kiss out and was able to say goodbye to him as he passed away.
There's no doubt in my mind that you were staring at the face of death. But it sounds like he didn't scare you. It wasn't that kind of fear that one might expect. Kind of comforting, as a matter of fact.
Yes, it was. Actually, it was very most comforting. It felt like being in the arms of grace and love.
Well, those are three incredible stories, and thank you for sharing them with us. The face of death. East of the Rockies, welcome to Coast. You're on the air. Hi there.
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Welcome.
Yes, I just wanted to say a couple of things that had happened to me. One's about an angel, but before I say that, I just wanted to say real quick, comment on cats, that they're very, very unusual cats. I breed the 6 o'clock cats before. I don't know if you ever heard of the breed. It's a rare and unusual cat.
What are they called again?
They're 6 o'clock cats.
6 o'clock cats. Okay, yeah, I guess that is unusual. Most of them have 5, right?
Yes, they're usually supposed to have 5, but the one that I have, the mama, she has 7 claws in one hand. If anybody's interested, I have one for auction.
Well, we can't put that out here on the air, but
okay, I can't give my phone number.
No.
No, okay, it's for a good cause.
I'd have every person who wants to sell their pets calling me with phone numbers.
Okay. The other story I had was I was saved one time by an angel that came to me in a figure of a white horse.
How'd that happen?
That was probably, I'm 30 years old today. I was probably about maybe 19 at the time. I remember it was about 8 o'clock at night, and it was barely peaking darkness. It had barely gone dark for about an hour already, and I was riding my bicycle outside, popping the curves. Riding the bicycles, popping the curves, and going out to the street. And I was going down the hill, down to the end of the street. And as I was going down, I had just made my turn from the house that I was at, and I went into the curve, jumped the curve, popped out to the street. And as I got maybe about 2 houses down, I could hear this. There was a big old light out there. It was pretty lit up and everything. I could hear a horse walking on the street. You could hear the footsteps, clunk, 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 clunk. And it startled me, and I looked up. When I looked up, I was on a bicycle, standing up. This horse was all white. It was the most biggest, beautifulest horse you've ever seen. He was walking towards me. He startled me. He scared me. I instantly stopped the bike. I turned it around, and I drove up past one house as fast as I could. I didn't even bother to stop. I crashed right into the double gates. I walked inside. I closed the gates. I threw the bike down. When I turned back and I looked to the street, the horse wasn't there no more. I saw 2 people coming out of a house, and they walked into a car, and they took off. And years later, as time went by, maybe about 7 years later, I almost got into an accident on a bicycle again. And I figured out that horse, he saved my life. I was going to get hit by them 2 people that were left down the street. Because if I calculated, I would have been down at the end of the street, and I would have been coming back up if that horse hadn't have did that.
I got that. That's a first for this.
The people would have hit me, but that horse, I'm telling you this, there was a real horse. It was walking. I heard his feet. It was like a Budweiser horse. You ever seen them commercials?
Oh, the Clydesdales, sure.
Yeah, it was a very, very big, beautiful horse. There was nothing evil about it, though. It was just it was a horse. I could see it.
Hey, here's an idea for you. What city do you live in?
I live in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, take a little ad out in the newspaper. As a matter of fact, sometimes if you have just a few lines, they put them in there for free. You know, somebody will pick up your cat. There's a lot of animal lovers out there. You can do something like that. Wild Card Line, welcome to Coast to Coast. You're on the air. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi,
George?
welcome to the show. Yes.
George, hey, here. There you go.
There you are, wherever you may be. Hi there.
This is Elaine, and I'm calling you from Tennessee, just south of Nashville. And I'm calling you about facing death. I've nearly died 15 different times in my life, and I've
wait a minute. How many times?
15.
15
Yep.
times you have looked at death in the face?
You bet I have, and I've crossed over. And but the reason I'm calling, I have one that I thought sounded really interesting that you'd like to hear. And I'm 50 years old now. But when I was 17, I was assaulted by a stranger in a parking lot. And I fought him off pretty good, and it angered him, so he started to strangle me. He looked me right in the eye, had me down on the ground. He said, "I'm going to murder you," and he started strangling me. And it dawned on me. I said, "Gee," I thought to myself, "This is not how I pictured my day ending." And it struck me
No,
kind
this
of
is
funny.
not a way to go.
Yeah, it struck me rather funny, and I started laughing. I couldn't get the air out, but I had a smile on my face, and I looked like I was laughing. And he took his hands off my throat and said, "What are you laughing at, B?" You know? And I said, "Hey, buddy, if you can do it, all the power to you." And I kept laughing, and he said, "You're crazy," and he got up and left.
Well, hey, you know what? For some reason, your strange sense of humor saved your life that day.
Yeah, I'm just not afraid to die. In fact, when I'm on the road, I've had many people pull guns on me out here and everything else, and I say, "Come on up here, show me how big your gun is." I don't care. I look right at them, and I said, "You know what? I don't give a, you know."
Well,
And
tell me they found the lowlife, though, who tried to strangle you. Did they ever?
No, I never reported it. He just ran. I was 17. I didn't know any better, you know. I just thought.
I was going to say, maybe he went off and did it again to someone else.
I know, but I was too naive. I just went home. I just thought, gee, you know what? Well, see, I had a really rough life, so that just kind of went along with the rest of my life. So everything that kept happening over and over is like one more thing, you know. But, when I crossed over, George, I begged them to let me stay. They made me come.
Who was they?
Well, whoever the spirit was that was there, I said, "Oh my God, is this for me? Can I stay?" They said, "Nope, you got to go back." And I went, "Oh man, it was so beautiful, George. It was so awesome."
What did it look like?
Well,
It was like that movie, Field of Dreams, where everything is just kind of colorful and nice.
Very, very, very. I've never seen that movie. But I'll tell you, and all the colors are extremely vivid. And then you feel, one of the things that's really, really great is that you suddenly recognize that there is no such thing as everything is separate. Everything is one. It's like if you looked at the whole universe is nothing more than atoms in space. That's what everything is. We're all one. And I saw first of all, I saw these light beings. Some would call them angels. There was just thousands of them in the sky going back and forth, and I asked if I could meet one. They said, "No, you can't meet one of those." And I said, "Oh, okay." Well, then the next thing I noticed to my left was it looked like a building or a city or something, and it looked like a row of gems. And you couldn't see the bottom. It went on forever. And I looked up, and you couldn't see the top. It went on forever. And then I went and I looked, and there was a bright light inside. I assumed that was our source, but I didn't know. And the next thing I saw to my left was this purple banner, and it looked like it was covered in crushed diamonds. And it was so beautiful. And I was told that was for the king. And then I looked to my right, and by this time now I was filled with the oneness. So I felt this ecstasy of love and joy and peace and everything. It was so perfect.
Aren't you glad at this point that you didn't cross over and stay?
No, I would love to go there. But one more thing that happened was that there was this, I looked to my right, and there was a big brown pillar. Again, you couldn't see the bottom. But when I looked up, there was a bunch of these little pedestals, and they were all around at different levels. And the Spirit told me that's where the saints were. And then suddenly it was like an invisible hand was cutting a new pedestal from the pillar. And it came out in front of my face. That's why I thought it was for me. And I said, is that for me? And he said, no, that's not for you. And I felt this disappointment, but I never wanted to forget all of it, so I just wanted to drink in and never forget everything I saw. Well, anyway, then I came back. And you know what, George? That's why I dare all these guys have these guns and everything out here on the road, because it can get kind of dangerous. I don't care. I want to go back.
Yeah, you've seen what death is like, and in your case, it's pretty enlightening. Well, just stick around on this planet for as long as you can before you move on, if you would. Let's go to our East of the Rockies line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hello, George.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the program.
All right, a couple of things. One, real quick, your show on the acetone and the gasoline not too long ago?
Yeah.
It works.
Oh, I know it works. 2.5 ounces of acetone to 10 gallons of premium, and it kicks you by what, 10, 20%?
Mine went up almost 25.
That's pretty good.
And that's not me doing the math. That's the little thing in the dashboard telling me what my gas mileage is.
It works. I know that.
But wanted to thank you for that little bit of money savings.
That's what we're here for.
About 7 years ago, I used to work as a conductor for a railroad.
Okay.
About 4 o'clock in the morning, working in a switchyard, I slept. And if you've ever taken a look at a railroad car, there's 2 sets of wheels on each end.
Right.
The piece that holds the wheels to the car is called a truck, and it's got a little sway in the bottom of it. I fell head first underneath the truck.
Oh my! How did you fall under there? It was a bizarre angle.
The way the wheels went over where the rail joins bounced the tie.
It's like a 1 in a million freak accident.
Yeah, just strange. Well, when I went under that, the truck was still moving, and my head wedged out between the bottom of the truck and the top of the tie, and started rotating my head. Well, my head went just under 180 degrees. Broke my neck in 4 places, ruptured several discs. And about the time I got let go, I heard the god-awful crunch that anybody who's ever worked for a railroad fears. And my arm went numb.
Oh, no.
Well, at that particular point, it let me go. Something it shouldn't have done. It just should have kept wadding me up underneath that thing. And beside the track where I was standing, you've got the ballast that goes off, the rocks, and then it went into a 4-foot ditch.
All right.
I should have fallen off of that thing and hit the bottom of that ditch really hard.
And you did not?
No, it was very, very gentle.
Who saved you? What saved you?
I don't know. That's what scares me to this day, because I know I should have hit the bottom.
I assume. Did you lose your arm?
No.
You didn't?
Did not lose my arm.
Oh, that's a miracle. And you're okay now?
Walk, talk, play with my kids.
You sound fine to me. Well, it was a miracle. I'll be back in a moment. We'll continue with open lines this hour. And if you have looked at death in the face, give us a call. I'm George Norrie. This is Coast to Coast AM. Hey, make sure you circle your calendar January 12th. That's a Thursday. And then through the entire month of January, in demand, we have a television show called Predictions. And I think you'll like the program. I saw a rough cut just a few days ago, and it's coming together very, very well. The producers, when I was in Los Angeles a few months ago, called me up and said, hey, we'd like you to host this program. What do you think? And gave them a few ideas and a few guest ideas, and they said, okay, let's do it. If you go to the website, predictions.tv, that's it, www.predictions.tv, you will find that if you guess what the Dow Jones Industrial Average will close on January 17th, you have a chance to win $5,000. They tell me there's one entry per person. The final entries will be accepted on January 12th. So that's a pretty interesting contest that the producers of the program are doing. It is, I don't know if it's available on satellite television yet, but it is available on your in-demand cable. So that starts on January 12th. And then if you do decide to watch it or have a little party where a number of people are there with you, give me your feedback so I can send it on to the producers. We'll be back in a moment. We'll wrap up with final phone calls on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie, and in your open lines west of the Rockies, why don't you get us going? You're on Coast. Hi.
Hey, George. God bless.
Hi.
I'm tempted to tell you about a life-changing experience with my dad the day he died, but I was going to do the topic on traveling back in time and the obstacles we would have to confront, some of the obstacles.
All right.
You choose.
It's your choice. You're the call. Yeah.
This day, my dad was in the hospital in 1988, and I found out after this day that he had died on the way to the hospital 9 days before, and they revived him. I got down there. I was inspired to go on a spontaneous trip down there with my daughter. I had worked that morning, drove down to Tacoma, about 30 miles from Seattle, walked in the hospital room, and my mother and aunt and my daughter left immediately. And within 15 minutes, he had died. But I'd helped him out of the bed, into the bed, and as he rested his head on the pillow, I felt his spirit go through me, and it was like a whirlwind. And it was a sense even stronger than standing outside in a stormy day where you're dealing with. And just before that, his eyes had been fixed where the wall meets the ceiling. And the look on his face was as if he was looking at someone who had just come to take him into his eternity. But the sensation of his spirit passing through my body was a life-changing event in my life. I consider it an opportunity that God gave me to increase my faith.
Absolutely, and it's something, obviously, that you will never, ever forget.
Absolutely. He was, like many men, the best friend I ever had. But it was a friendship we had worked on, developed after I had grown. Like so many men of that generation, they had difficulty showing love and affection to their children. But it was something I was determined to help nurture as I became an adult. And this was God's gift to me as we'll say a goodbye to my dad. And only one in the family there, spontaneous trip. And I know you don't believe in coincidences. I don't either. But
no, there was a reason that worked out that way.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. Next up, let's go to our wild card line. You're on the air with us on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show. And where are you calling from?
From Texas.
Okay, go take it away.
Stared death in the face once back in 1996. I was working at a grocery store in Utah.
Probably once too many times, huh?
That was once too many. That's right.
Yeah. What happened to you?
I was hauling produce back and forth in the back room with a pallet jack, a motorized pallet jack. And had dripped some water, some melting ice had dripped water across the floor that I didn't notice. On a trip to go pick up another pallet, I was empty, no pallet, and lost control of the pallet jack in the water. It took the leg out a wall storage units, a big set of steel shelves that were holding pallets of flour and sugar up against the wall. And for a second, I just saw the whole thing stand there. I could hear it tearing off the wall, and didn't have time to get out of the way. And the whole unit came down on top of me. Ended up being about 22,000 pounds of flour and sugar, plus whatever the weight of that.
What happened to you?
Well, as I watched it fall, I thought, this is it. I'm not going to make it. There's no way. There's between the wood of the pallets, the weight of the flour and sugar, all that steel, I'll be a pancake at the bottom. And my last thought was, well, it's been a good run, 22 years, and that's it. And then there was just a tremendous noise, and then it was silence. And I wasn't sure if I was alive or dead. The first thing that occurred to me to do was to see if I could wiggle my toes. And I figured if I could wiggle my toes, I might still be alive. And I wiggled my toes, and I could feel them, and couldn't really see. It was kind of dark. There was a lot of stuff around me, and realized that I could breathe, and somehow that I was still alive, or at least I thought I was. And it took a few minutes to verify, yeah, I was still alive. And what did it for me was the steel, as it fell, it knocked me flat. And it scraped down the side of my face and my neck and taken all the skin off of it. But it had landed on top of the pallet jack and created a little cavity that I was sandwiched and smashed down into. That cut was all open and bleeding, and sugar from a torn bag started pouring into it, and it just sang like a dickens.
Oh, that does sting. And I bet your sugar cravings were gone after that, huh?
Oh, no, I'm still a sugar hound. Then I knew, well, if I feel pain, I must still be alive. But I just remembered that second thinking, this is it. They're coming to take me away. I'm not going to make this. And
it's a miracle you're still around.
Absolutely a miracle. It was.
I'm telling you, 22,000 pounds of that stuff on top of you. There shouldn't have been anything left of you.
There was just after I got out and looked back down into that pocket. It took about 15 people about 45 minutes to get me out, and I could look down in that little hole where I was and thought, there's no way. I'm a little over 6 feet tall, and that hole was just a couple of feet square, and it was just a miracle. It was amazing.
That is an incredible story. Hey, thanks for sharing it with us. Wildcard Line, you're up on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi. I'm Margaret. Calling from the RVA 1140 in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Margaret. Hi. How are you?
Fine, thank you. There were 3 times, but I'm going to just mention, I'll mention the one that I was in college. It was 1971. I was at the Jersey Shore. And I was at the beach, like in the water. And all of a sudden I turned around and the wave came and it was over my head. And everybody was yelling, dive into the wave. But that didn't make sense to me, so I just stood there. And the wave came, and it, knocked me down, and it banged me in the back and took, all the air out of me. So I was under the water, and I thought I was drowning. But then some other wave came and brought me up, and I grabbed onto this little man, and I says, help me, please, I'm drowning. And he says, hold on, here comes another one. Well, it took me... And I was down in the water again, and I remember it's like time stopped, and I saw the sun coming through the water, and I don't know how I wasn't breathing, but I don't know how I just survived there, and I kept thinking, this must be what it's like to die, and it wasn't scary. For me, it was peaceful. But then all of a sudden, another wave came, and the last thing I knew, I was on the beach, and the lifeguards had gotten me.
And that's it. That's all you remember.
That's all I remember. And the first time was in 8th grade, and I don't even remember. All I remember, the lifeguards got me, and after that I really don't go to swimming anymore. And the third time, but I think I was saved. It was 1995. I was in the island of Kauai, and they have the big, beautiful cliffs there, and I was walking right along the cliffs. And all of a sudden, I started slipping down, and my husband was far away, and the kids were too little. And from, I don't know where, all of a sudden came a man dressed with black pants and a white shirt, considering everybody was just tourists and shorts and stuff. And he came in very quick, picked me up by the arm, and then before I could even say thank you, he was gone.
He saved you, but he saved you.
Yes, but he left. Everything happened so quick. He didn't even stay around. And it was one night when I was listening to your show about angels. My daughter was listening to me, and I said, that never happens to me. And she says, and she was like about 4 at the time, and she says, yes, it did. And I said, since when? And she says, don't you remember when you were falling down the cliff in Hawaii? And I says, oh, my God, I never thought of that.
Your little 4-year-old's got to remember that.
And
huh?
I was in shock because how could she remember that? And I had forgotten, but she remembered.
Well, people do. As a matter of fact, I remember an episode when I was a year and a half old, and I told my mother about it. I described the scene. It was when she was going to the hospital to have my sister, and she couldn't believe it. But I was right, a year and a half old. Now, go figure. Wildcard line, welcome to the program. You're on the air. Hi there.
Yes, my name is John, and I'm in Henderson, Nevada.
Hi, John. How are you?
Hi. Very good. I'd just like to make one comment. I would like to see a round table with the man you had on last night, Mr. Hauser.
Mike Heiser, sure.
Mike Heiser. And Hal Lindsey, Patrick Huron, and Zechariah Sitchin.
Well, Sitchin would probably, you know what, he won't stay up for a full show. He'll probably do just the hour, but those other individuals are pretty good, too.
Yeah, my story of facing death was in Vietnam in 1969, April 27th. I was a grunt. I was working about 4 miles outside of my base camp in Quang Tri. They woke us up at 5:30 in the morning and told us we had an hour to get back to the base camp. Didn't tell us anything else. Well, we made it back because I think the adrenaline in us was telling us that maybe the war's ended or something. Maybe we're going home. We got there and we were briefed by our battalion commander that we were going to be going into Laos for an operation against the North Vietnamese army that was shelling into Vietnam one of our road supplies, one of our supply roads.
Sure.
And so we all went in and we started packing up all the ammo and everything we could get. And I heard somebody talking behind me about a mess sergeant, or a supply sergeant actually, had volunteered to go out with us. And at that point I was crouched down. I turned around and there was the man right there. And I saw him with a kind of a light blue light over his midsection, and then not covering that, but just kind of partially covering it, was a grayish light. Well, we went into Laos. We spent the night up on a hill. They told us we had to walk out, 7-day walk. So we walked, and on the first day, we were walking along this road, and a couple of our men stepped on a mine, or one man did.
God.
It didn't. They weren't hurt seriously.
Really? You step on a mine and it not?
Right.
That's incredible. All right.
So my sergeant told me to go across the crossroads to set up security. And I took 2 steps. And then he grabbed me by the shoulder and he said, no, go back this way. So I turned around to go back the other way. He told that mess sergeant, or the supply sergeant man, to go where I was going. I watched him. He took the first 2 steps that I took. Then he took the 3rd step, and a mine went off and then instantly killed him. So I had the precognition, or that vision, of him dying. And I told my squad members as soon as I saw that, and I turned around, I said, he's not going to make it, And then when we got back, I reminded them that I told you guys that he wasn't going to make it. And they said, yeah, that's right, you did. How did you know? And I never told them about the light and everything, but I made the standard deal with God when I went over there that if he would get me back alive to my wife, I'd give my life to him. And I believe that, he honored that vow.
And did you honor your side of the deal?
Well, off and on. And I am now, full-time doing that.
Sure.
But it's a rough. I was a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. I became a born-again Christian in 1976. There's a lot of difference between living the two lifestyles.
Well, and I got to tell you, when you're faced with that kind of life-altering episode, it does affect you forever.
Right. And all I can say, it was not a good thing, or really, it was kind of half good and half bad. That man died, but evidently it was his time. He volunteered to go out when he didn't have to, and I don't even know what made me say that. But
I guess there's nothing you could have done.
There's nothing I could have done. I wasn't even aware that he was near me or actually right behind me when I was sent out to go across the road the one way. I just kind of turned my head, and I saw it was him, and I saw him take the 2 steps and the 3rd step.
And that was it.
And I was within 5 feet of it, and it didn't touch me.
Well, I'm glad you made it back.
Yes, and I've been trying for a long time to get into you, but I just figured out how to do it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you, George.
it. There is a secret to it, and once you learn it, you'll never forget. International line, you're on the air with us. Hi there.
Hi there.
Welcome to the program. Where are you?
I'm Laurel from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, okay, Laurel. Go ahead.
Hi. I was quite surprised to get through the line on my first try.
Sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't.
Exactly. I'm calling in about your looking at death.
And have you stared at death?
Twice. Once at age 17 and once 2 years ago when I was 43.
Of the two, which was the worst episode for you?
The worst episode was the one 2 years ago.
What happened?
Well, I'm a rock hunter, and I do a lot of digging for fossils and crystals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out at an old dried-up, kind of like a lake bed, digging for selenite crystals, and the wall cracked at the base and buried me in a landslide head first. And it broke my right shoulder, snapped it like a twig, buried me head first with my right arm outstretched with my rock pick, which is what caused the breakage, I found out from the weight. But the only part of my body that was left outside of the dirt was actually my left hand from about the wrist up. So by the time I realized what had happened, I was already screaming underground. And I learned very quickly that when you scream underground, inevitably, when you breathe back in, that's when you breathe in the dirt.
You got that right. Oh, my God.
It was amazingly just...
That's creepy.
It's creepy. It's cold. The pressure is phenomenal. I was aware that I was hurt, but I didn't know the full extent of it. I realized I was inhaling in, and all this dirt was snaking its way down my throat. And I stopped instantly, tried to get my wits about me, and all I could hear was my heart beating in my ears.
How'd you get saved? I got to run right now. How'd you get saved?
Basically, they still don't know how I got saved. I was by myself, and some people came around. My ex-husband and my daughter came around, and they found me staggering around. Somehow I had broken out of 1,000 pounds of dirt hanging upside down.
I got to tell you, I bet some hand pulled you out of there, too. Where it is, nobody knows. For Dan Galante, Kiris Coburn, Steve Carr, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladasuri, and Punit and Art Bell, I'm George Norrie. Somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everyone.